Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn a little bit about somebody else's perspective on movies. And joining me is another member of the SiftPop crew, Chantal. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And as you know, we love shameless plugs here. Before I jump into my questions, would you like to plug anything for the audience to check out anything you're working
Um, if you guys just ever want to just hang out and just want to see what I'm talking about, you can always catch me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at
on?
underscore Akira XO. And of course, if you just want to check out any of my reviews, you can just find me on Letterboxd as well under, I want to say it's underscore Edna mode.
I will make sure to include some links in the bio, in the description for the video, but that's that's very nice. We love that.
Thanks.
No capes here.
Exactly. No capes.
We don't approve of capes here. We want to be safe when we're trying to save people.
Exactly.
But let's dive into these questions, shall we?
Of
So
course.
the first two questions kind of go hand in hand, but I like to
Mhm.
start with what I like to call the watch list question.
Yes.
So, Chantal, what's a previously released film that you have not seen that you're most excited to check out?
Right now, of course, it's award season, got the movies buzzing. And so far the one movie that I really want to see, and it has not played anywhere near me when it came out, it would be
Hmm.
Sing Sing.
Okay.
So Sing Sing is definitely one of those movies. It was like it came and it was gone. It didn't come to Las Vegas. It's rare for like these small movies to come to Vegas. I don't know why, but it was kind of like disappointing when it didn't come. So
Hmm.
I'm just waiting for that chance to be able to see this film whenever it's streaming or whenever I get that chance. And of course I'm a big fan of Coleman Domingo ever
Yeah.
since Fear of the Walking Dead. So I'm definitely like trying to see it.
I I got lucky to see a screening of that with some members of the Philadelphia area who do prison programs like this. And
Really?
it was a really fascinating conversation after the film.
Yeah.
Um, but it looks like they're re-releasing it in January. So
Okay.
hopefully it might
Fingers
get some
crossed.
showtimes near you. Get those fingers crossed. Because was
Yes.
it an A24 film? I feel like it had to be.
I
Uh,
want to say I want to say that it was. I kind of want to say that it is an A24 movie.
because if it is, hopefully it winds up on Max at some point because they have that whole entire deal with them.
Yeah.
But we shall see. I'm hoping that it's such an incredible film, and
Hmm.
God, if Coleman Domingo doesn't at least get nominated for Best Actor for that, it's
Oh my
a
God.
travesty.
You're
Um,
right.
but I would imagine that they're going to try to make it
Hmm.
more accessible leading into Oscar season, especially if it does wind up getting some nominations. So crossing some
Exactly.
fingers here that it does.
That's what I'm
Now,
hoping for.
absolutely. And thinking into the future.
Hmm.
So obviously it is award season and we're still getting some of those trickling in as we're doing this recording. And
Right.
also 2025 is right here. So
Exactly.
what film that's not released yet are you most excited to check out?
Oh, that's not released. Oh, I guess you can say it because it does come out on Christmas Day.
Hmm.
I It's gonna be Baby Girl.
Mm,
I'm excited about this one. It's like it's not like one of those typical movies that you would normally see like on a Christmas day. Like it like to me, I just feel like nobody would be like, hey, like what movie do you want to see on Christmas Day? Hey, let's go see Baby Girl. Like that's like not like on someone's radar, but it's totally on mine.
mm,
It's just one of those films. When I saw the trailer, it just felt like really intimate, thrilling, and also a little funny too as well.
mm,
And I just keep hearing like great things about it, like with Nicole Kidman. Always been a fan of hers, and then I'm like also a growing fan of like Harris Dickinson. So I'm
mm.
like really excited to see like how the chemistry works on the screen.
Mm.
So I'm very looking forward to this one.
It is the I feel like it's that Eyes Wide Shut, very
Right.
lustful erotic thriller that's also a Christmas movie. I'm
Yes.
just waiting for like parts of the movie that take place during Christmas and be like, this is why this is coming out on Christmas. And just plot that in erotic Christmas movies
Right.
that
It's like,
do not feel like you should be watching this on Christmas. I think one of my favorite memories of seeing a movie on Christmas that came out on Christmas was
mhm.
Uncut Gems. Because,
Yes.
that's a Christmas movie for sure. But now this year's Christmas releases seem so weird.
They
Because
really are when you think about it, because
mhm,
it's Nosferatu, Baby Girl, and then you have and a complete unknown,
yeah,
and it's
I
just
think A
like,
Fire Inside is like the
yes,
last
that
one.
was,
Yeah.
and it was just like a weird, because you're so used to seeing like holiday movies on Christmas, and it's just like you have a vampire, Bob Dylan, a boxer, and then it's like you have an erotic thriller. It's just, it's like the combination is so weird.
Now I'm just thinking of Vampire Bob Dylan. It's going to be a sequel to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. We'll all be ready to see it.
I'll be
But
first.
like the big family movies are coming out the
Hmm.
weekend before with Mufasa and
Right.
Sonic. And then it's just like, no, you're gonna get some weird stuff on Christmas this year. So, but no, Baby Girl, that the vibe of the trailer, the energy of the
Hmm.
trailer, you're just like, this is gonna be interesting. It's just like when they plop that milk right in front of her, and she's just like, I'm like, and she thinks this is the weirdest thing that he's gonna have her do.
Exactly. It was just like, it was just the intensity of it too. Especially, I think
Mhm.
that one, like the one that they showed where he like leans over and he like calls her good girl. I was just like, and she
The
just
look on
stood.
her face was like, how dare you? But I'm a little turned on right now.
Exactly. I'm also aroused at the same time, but
Yeah.
like I also want to slap you, but I
Yeah.
can't. So it's, yeah, I'm like, I'm
Like I
excited.
want to slap you, but I feel like that's just gonna make it worse because you're gonna be even more turned on by this. Um, it's so funny because you brought up Harris Dickinson and Nicole Kidman. Her
Hmm.
husband's Antonio Banderas. I'm just
Right.
like, your husband is Antonio Banderas. Why are you looking for this scrawny white dude over here?
Exactly. So it's like you have like a, it's like hot people. So I just love it.
Yep.
It's like it's just hot people, and I'm like, I'm ready for the hotness. So
It's
and
so funny because I'm like, because at that point, by the time that
mhm.
comes out, that's going to be the last one I haven't seen. I got really lucky that I've gotten to see some screenings lately,
Mhm.
but I'm like to my wife, I'm like, you gonna go want to go see Baby Girl on Christmas? And
Right.
she's like, no. And she's like, I'm not watching that movie. I'm like, okay, I'll go by myself.
It's
Uh,
fine.
it's fine. But now a lot of conversations come around when it
Hmm.
comes to movies that we're getting and all the remakes we're getting. Speaking of
Yeah.
Nosferatu,
Yeah.
um, what's a film that you feel like legitimately deserves a remake?
This one, it was so hard because it's like there's so many films I feel
It's like
like
what hasn't gotten
right.
remade at this point?
Exactly. It's like, and sometimes I feel like they're remaking the wrong movies. Um, so
That's
for
most of the
me,
time.
exactly. So for me, I think the one that kind of like stood out for me, I think it would have to be The Dark Tower with with it was just
Mm,
Alba and Matthew McConaughey. Like I
yeah.
really was excited with this one because even though I'm like I didn't like follow like the books or anything,
Hmm.
I'm just a fan of like Stephen King, and then of course you have Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't go wrong. It was just that it was just like a letdown, and I just felt like it was just like the story was too clunky, and then like this,
Hmm.
and it just felt rushed, and it was like a, it was like the CGI looked like it was done by a 4 year old. Like it was just like a lot of like components where it was just like it was just all bad, and I just feel like if they would just get the story out, like get the story right and be able to like flesh it out without like weighing it down in a way, I kind of feel like it wouldn't work like a film. I think it would be better off as a series because then you'll be able to like work it out a little bit better.
Which from which is this is very interesting because
Hmm.
I remember seeing the film. I hadn't read any of the books yet.
Right.
And I remember watching the movie and just being like, well, that was like 95 minutes of just a clunky, like,
Right.
okay. And then I read the books
Hmm.
and then realized that the movie's a sequel to the books in a
Okay.
strange way. And
Okay.
I feel like I'd be spoiling the end of the book
Hmm.
series if I told you why it's a sequel. And then I'm
Okay.
like, now I have to rewatch this movie. I don't think it's going to make the movie better, but I
Right.
feel like it would be an interesting context. But then, from what I understand, is Mike Flanagan, who has now jumped ship to Amazon because he had a
Right.
falling out with Netflix, is going
Right.
to be making the Dark Tower series.
Oh.
And it's going to be a series. And if that's the only thing he makes for like the next 10 years,
Hmm.
I could be okay with that.
Okay.
I'm like, if you're going to give us that, I could be
Right.
okay with this. So
Especially with Mike Flanagan. Like
yes,
he's amazing. So yeah.
it'll be interesting because like Stephen King had a lot of drug problems. Those drug problems were at
Mhm.
the height of him writing those books because those are some weird, crazy shit. And I'm just imagining Mike
Mhm.
Flanagan getting his claws into it and just being like,
Yeah.
well, this is gonna be some weird shit. So, but I'm excited about it. So bring it
Yeah.
on. Now, Chantal, the first time I had you on, I asked what your earliest memory of going to the movies was, but what's your
Yeah.
fondest memory of going to the movies?
Ooh, I have so many, there's so many memories. I'm like, because I mean, the movies are just, I don't know, they're just great. You just
Mhm.
be able to get out of being in reality for like 2 hours out of your day. So, but I think, I wouldn't say my fondest, I would probably say my craziest memory of
Okay.
going to see a movie in the theater. And I would have to say it was Breaking Dawn Part Two. Um, the night had like already started out crazy because I had like dropped my drink and I had like a mess to clean up.
Oh
but
no.
but then after that, it was like smooth sailing until when we got to that moment when where that whole scene happened that does not happen in the book with Carlisle losing his head, like when the whole theater just like lost their shit, especially me because I was like, I'm of course the loud one in the theater. I was like, that doesn't happen. And it was just like that whole moment was just crazy an experience just to be like with your friends and like just to hear like that audible gasp through that theater and like just to see everybody have like that same like look on their face, like what is going on? Because within like maybe what was that whole scene was maybe like good 15 minutes of like none of this happened. So we were just all like trying to figure out like, is any of this real? Like what's going on? So it's just it was just like a lot of intense moments until like the end where it was like, okay, this is just make believe. And they were just like, what the like so we just did that for nothing. But it was still just like one of those crazy but fun moments to have.
I feel like a similar type experience I had because I've never read any Twilight. I've never seen any of the movies, so I'll put
Mhm.
that out there. Of an audience turning on a movie and being like, "What is going on here?" was when I was in a opening night screening of Glass,
Okay.
and the climax of that movie happens, and the audience was
Yeah.
not having it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm part of that audience.
It was
Yeah.
disaster in real time. And you just like when you have an audience, because like there's very few moments in a movie theater where I've been where a whole audience turned on a movie.
Right.
That was one of them. I think Iron Man 3 was one too,
Really?
with the whole Mandarin thing,
Oh, yeah.
which on initial watch, it's very jarring.
Yeah.
On subsequent watches, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But in that moment, that's not the original reaction people had with it. And it's just so
Yeah.
fascinating when people are so invested in something, something can happen in a movie, and you're just like, wow, they lost the whole entire audience today. But I can't even imagine like if I was watching like the last Harry Potter movie and they had a
Yeah,
giant action battle set piece, and then it's like, just kidding.
that's literally what it was like. Like that whole, it was just to me like that last book. It was just like it shouldn't even been broken up into two movies, and then it's like that whole ending. It was like it was just a
Well,
bunch of
money.
talking. Exactly. So it was just because at the end of that book, it was like a bunch of talking. So for them to make, okay, let's make this climactic. Like, how can we do that? Okay, we're just gonna fuck with your minds really quick and just say we're gonna kill off one of your favorite characters for no reason. And it was just like, okay. So it was just complete like chaos and like until the very end. And we were just like, huh? So
Wild.
yeah, I was like,
Now,
I remember that. It was just, I was so upset after that. But then
I
after,
don't
like
blame
you
you.
said, watching it again, it was just like, I understand the reason why they did this, but also it was dumb.
They're like, we need a climax. We need a climax to this movie. Doesn't matter if it actually happens or not.
No.
But expectations can be a big driving force in our
Mm-hmm.
experience watching a movie. But
Right.
Chantal, what's a film that really exceeded your expectations?
Oh wow. This was another one too because I had like a few of them that were like this,
Mhm.
but I think the main one that really stuck out to me was No Country for Old Men. I think it was like when it was like my mom like it was like when Redbox was still a thing.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "Oh my god," she just wanted to watch this movie. I was like, I'm like, I don't have no desire to see it. I was just like, whatever. And at the time, I was like still in school, so I was like probably doing homework or whatever. And I just remember I was like sitting on the couch, and I just remember just I kept looking away from whatever I was doing, and I just kept going back to the TV. And I just remember the point that got me to where I was just like, all right, I'm in it. It was this gas station scene with Javier Bardem and with the old guy, and that's when
Yeah.
I was just like just sitting there just stunned, just like I was just like engrossed, like I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Like that whole scene was just so intense and scary, but his character was also charismatic in a way. It was
And it
just
was hilarious.
and it was
It's
just
the
great.
strangest thing.
And it was
It's
just
just
great, like just the back and forth and like telling him like when he was getting ready to like take the coin and put it in his pocket, and he told him like, "Don't put it in your pocket, like don't do that because it'll like mix it up with the other coins." And just that whole like
that
scene was
sassy look he gives him,
at the
where
end
he's just
was
like,
it was so great, and
and
it
just
was
like
just
walks away.
and it's like I was just like hoping, just like I hope this old man gets out of it. Like I really just hope he makes it. And it was just like happy when he like let him go. But that whole scene just alone, I was just like, okay, I gotta stop what I'm doing and just pay attention. And it was just one of those slow burners, but it was just something that I can like watch and like never get tired of it. It was just such a good film.
That is one of my favorite films of all time. Coens are
Yes.
my favorite filmmakers. And between that, Fargo, and The Big Lebowski, like
Mm-hmm.
this is what they do. And
Right.
Fargo's like the perfect mix of both those things.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think people don't give this movie enough credit for how funny it actually is. Because there's
Right.
moments watching No Country for Old Men where I laugh out loud because it's like so darkly, unexpectedly funny. Like that whole
Mm-hmm.
sequence where he's just like, well, I'm sorry, we're closing up. Like, when you close, it's like dark. Like does that motion where he's looking up at the sky and it's very obviously like bright as hell out.
Exactly. He didn't have a time. It's like he kept asking him, like, when do we close? And he's like dark when like he's like when it gets dark. And it's just
Dark.
like, okay, like, but when does it get dark?
And it's like it's not dark, sir. And just like anytime Tommy Lee Jones is talking, it's like I think we just missed him. And it's like, oh, sheriff, should we put out an APB? It's like, what? Put out an APB for a man who recently drank milk. And he just pops the squat and just starts drinking some milk. I'm just like, damn, Tommy Lee Jones, you're too sassy.
Oh my god.
But
It's
that film's incredible. I
yes.
interesting similar situation. Like my brother and his
Mm,
friend were watching it on Encore because
okay. All right.
all those movie channels. And I just walked in the
Yes.
room and I'm like, it's one of those moments where you're just like, well, now I gotta stay. Just like
Exactly.
sat down and I
It's
watched the
like
rest of the movie. I'm just like, and not only does the film's quality exceed your expectations,
right.
but every bit of that movie subverts every expectation of what you think's going to happen in this movie. And
Does.
just that moment with Llewellyn and the
Hmm.
motel, and just like, what just happened?
Right.
What?
It's intense. Like every like I think the scene that really got me is like with Llewellyn when he's like running from the dogs and it's just like okay, it's like is he gonna get caught? Like are they gonna like capture him? It was just like my heart was just like just pounding in my chest because it's like you don't know like what's gonna happen. It's like you know like something bad is gonna happen. You just don't know like how it's going to happen. So it was just, and then like the same with like Llewellyn's, I think it was his wife, like that whole scene with Anton and his wife. I was just like so scared for her because I was just like thinking like, I hope nothing happens to her. I was just like,
Well,
please just leave
and
her, let her be.
I love Kelly McDonald, and damn, she's so good in that team where she's like,
Yes.
no, I'm not going to call it. And there's the look on his face. He's just like, but what now?
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
wait.
he cannot compute. And that film is so incredible in terms of the details. And like,
Hmm.
you don't see it, but what does he do when he walks out the front of her house? He checks his boots. And you're just like,
Hmm.
oh no.
I was like,
She's like, she's
no.
dead in there.
I was just
And
like, this can't be happening.
it's just that film is wild. And then
Very.
that ending. And you're just like, wait, what?
Right. It's just like, okay.
I it's the second most confused I've ever been by the credits rolling. Number one is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh,
And that was 100% on purpose. So, so confused.
yes.
Now, now, Chantal, I don't know how
Mhm.
much of a reader you are, but
Yeah.
what's a written work that you wish would get adapted into a film?
It's I was like thinking about this. This was the one that was like really like kicking me like in the butt because I was just like, I'm like, what have I read that has
Mm.
not been made into a movie yet?
Well,
Because it's like it seems like everything that I read is like it's already been made into something. But
mhm.
I think there is one thing that I have read, which is actually getting made into a film. Um, I'm kind of happy about it. It would be Children of Blood and Bone. I read it back in like 2018. Because of course, like Amazon, they always give you them like freebies like at the beginning of the month. So I was like, why not? So it was just like one of those good books. It was just like a story about like this young heroine who has like a chance to like bring back magic to her people and like the strike against the monarchy while trying to harness her own powers and while trying to like outrun this prince who's trying to like get rid of magic for good. And so I'm actually kind of lucky that this book is actually going to be coming to a film. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to do. And I think um the director, I think they did get a director, and I want to say it's the director from The Woman King. It's I want to say it's Gina Price Bythewood. So I'm kind of excited to see what she does. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I'm like a little excited. I hope that it does come to fruition because it is a good book.
That just screams we're gonna make this into a movie,
Yeah,
like written all over it. So
exactly.
I'm a little surprised that it hasn't been made into one yet. The
Exactly
fact that
right.
you read it in 2018, I'm like, that
Mhm.
means it's at least 6 years old. What's Hollywood even doing? Uh,
Right.
but that's interesting, and I
Mhm.
would like to see what she does with that because
Same.
the Woman King definitely had a lot of really strong elements to it, and the direction and the action and stuff like that was definitely one of them.
Right.
So be interested to see when that comes out. I'll be keeping an eye out now. Now,
Same.
mm, trailers, we all have a
Mhm.
love-hate relationship with them because some of them are just
Yeah.
incredible, and some of
Yeah.
them you're like, why do I even need to see the movie now? But
Exactly.
Chantal, what is your favorite movie trailer?
Oh, there are so many, but I think just right off like the top of my head, because it was crazy how this trailer actually appeared on my timeline on X. And it just made me realize why I love this trailer so much. And it was for the girl with the dragon tattoo, the
Mm,
Fincher version. Um,
yes.
that one was it just I remember seeing the trailer. I think I can't even remember what movie it was for, but I just remember them playing it at the beginning of whatever movie. And
Mm,
I just love the fact that the cover of the immigrant song, like the constant flashes of like the scenes from the movie, but it's like not really telling you anything.
mm,
It's like, in the editing was just like so it was just like really smooth, and I just love the tagline with it being like, this is the feel bad movie of Christmas. Like, once again, it was another movie
yeah.
that came out on Christmas, and it does happen around Christmas, but it's not a holiday film. Like, it has nothing to do with like anything Christmassy at all, but it happens during the holidays. But it's just one of those trailers that just like was that just clicked for me, and I was just like,
Mm,
I have to see this film. Even, and on top of that, I read the book too, so I was just
yeah.
like really excited just to see what Finch's version was, which I loved. So the trailer was just that got me hooked, and it did a great job of doing so.
What's crazy is you are the second straight episode to have
Really,
that as an answer.
I
Because
love it.
and it's an incredible trailer. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's his most underrated movie. Because I
It
don't
is.
get the criticism a lot of
Mm-hmm.
why people don't love that movie. And it makes me really sad because I wanted to see the other two get made by David Fincher.
Oh my
So
God. I totally did. And it was just I was so upset when I found out that he wasn't like coming back, like nobody was coming back, especially with the ending. I was like, how
yeah,
can you just end it with her just driving off and like riding off in the distance and don't come
heartbreaking.
back to that? Like, that
Like
whole scene was just so like I felt for her, like just she was just happy at once because it's like she found someone, and then just for her to like realize, well, like that was absolute shit. And it was just like, and she just
I
drives off.
I own the three uh versions with Numi Rapace in it. And
Yeah,
so
I've
like I
seen
own
those.
that
Yeah.
trilogy and I love the first two. The third
Mm-hmm.
one
It's like,
drags like
yeah.
hell.
Yeah,
and but
yeah.
but I really love the first one,
Mm,
but I loved the dynamic between Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara in that Fincher one. And that's why I
same.
was heartbroken. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt something so strongly when she got that gift for him.
Yes.
And then I'm just like, and the movie ends like this. And
It was just so heartbreaking when like Fincher just pulled he just like pans the like camera out, and she's just like standing there like in the middle of the alley, and she's just like looking up at him, and like, and I cannot think of her name in the movie, like Robin Wright's character, like with them together
yeah,
like walking to the cab, and just watching her just watch them together, and it was just like crazy how he doesn't even see her, like he's so lost in her, and like, and um he doesn't even see her like at all.
Lisbeth,
He doesn't,
yeah.
yeah, Elizabeth. He doesn't even see her at all. And it's like she just turned so quickly, and then it's just like it didn't even matter to her anymore. And it's just like the toss of the bag into the
Yep.
trash, and then she just rides off. And I'm like, and we don't find out what happens after that. Like,
I made
we
the
don't
same
get
comment last episode, but it
no
gets filed
connection.
away with Mindhunter season 3 and like Fincher, why are you giving us this? But and I will never be able to listen to Enya the same way ever again. Thanks, David Fincher. Wild. Now,
Such a crazy one.
speaking of music,
Mm-hmm.
the next two questions have to do with music, and the next one
Yes.
happens to be, what's your favorite use of a song in a movie?
It's just I just love this. This is like such a good question because there's like once again there's like so many good choices, but I think as of recently, I think my
Mm.
favorite would have to be I Got Five on It from the movie Us.
Mm.
I'm like, thanks to Jordan Peele, like thank you for reminding me of that song because it's like I totally forgot about that being a song. And but it just still like the quality of it just still sound amazing in the film. But what I loved about it the most is like how like the main melody was used like as a leitmotif for
Score.
like the climate, yeah, for the climax of the whole scene with
Boom,
um
boom, boom, boom.
like that whole scene at the end when they're fighting, like it was just like very intense and creepy. Like I don't know how they can make a dope song
Yeah.
into like something so just something that makes your like the hair stand on your back of your neck. Like it was just like one of those, like I have like that mix on my phone. Like it was just one of those, it was just I just loved it.
I had never heard of that song ever before until that trailer. And it like immediately got stuck up here. And also, side note, I don't think I can respect Winston Duke any more than the incredible dad vibe that he
Yes,
brings in that movie. Because like
it's so great.
he's like him going from Umbaku, where he's like, we're vegetarians, to like the
Exactly.
crawdaddy. It's like, my God, the dad vibe here is infinite. And the
It's
whole
perfect.
and where she's just like, this is about drugs, like it's about this is a dope song. Just like look at this dad. But I have generally I
Hmm.
mostly listen to like rock music and stuff like that, but
Right.
I have
Yeah.
a wide taste in music and I have a
Same.
playlist on Spotify that's called I Listen to Other Things Too. And I got five on it
I love
playlist
it.
because
That's a good choice.
I have not been able to shake that song, and that's the power of a song. And that was genius that they incorporated
Yes.
that into the score because that piece of music, the dun, 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 is so creepy in that scene, that whole ballet dance fight. We get at the end of the film, terrifying. I love
And
Jordan Peele.
and I love in the scene where it's like when they go to the other house. I can't think of the other couple's name, but I like when they walk in the house and you can just hear like the guy say "creep on in," and I just love the fact that
Yeah.
he just like add that little part in there. It's just like the way he uses songs are like just like mwah, they're like chef's kiss.
Also, one of the funniest, uncomfortably funny things I think I've ever seen in a movie was when the doppelgangers take out Elizabeth Moss's family. And it's just like,
Oh my
call the
god.
police. I laughed so hard in the
That was so
theater.
great. I
That
love
was
that so much.
Jordan Peele's genius. Like, come
Very.
on. Now,
That was so perfect.
yeah. Now, thinking about scores. So, if you're
Hmm.
going to sit down and you're going to listen to
Yes.
any movie score, what's that score going to be?
Well, as of lately, and as my replay 2024 on Apple Music told me, it's Oppenheimer.
Okay.
It has gotten over. I've listened to that score this year like over 2,000 minutes. It was just like one of
And
those scores that literally just stood out for me in a
yeah.
film as of recently. Like I'm like one of those people where it's like I won't listen to the score until I've seen the film, and so seeing the film and then hearing the music for the first time, it was just something that was just I don't. It was beautiful. I have to say
Yeah.
it was just beautiful, just like how like Ludwig, like he just like I don't know, like how he finds like just the way he makes music works. Like it was beautiful. It was just like it just amplified every scene like in the film. And it
Mhm.
just especially my favorite one where it's like um if you what is it? Hear the music. What is it? I think it's like hear the music. Which is like literally like my favorite part where it's like where Oppenheimer's like walking around the room and he's like looking at pictures and he's just like it's just like
And
those different like scenes and stuff. And it was just like one of those like scores that will like just sit with me forever.
that early, like the early part of the film where he's still a student.
Yes.
and he's like throwing the glasses.
Yes.
And like that whole entire sequence, that montage has one of the most hauntingly beautiful pieces of music. And you're just like,
Yes.
this movie's going hard. Because
Yeah.
like I remember when they announced that he was making a biopic, and I'm
Hmm.
like, is it still gonna feel like Nolan though? And then
Right.
that scene happens. I'm like, this is the most Nolan thing I think I've ever seen or heard. And
Exactly.
Ludwig Göransson, whether it's
Hmm.
Black Panther or The
Yes.
Mandalorian or Oppenheimer, knows how to compose music and
Yes.
really hit to the core of what it is. Because
Yes.
Black Panther was so important to be able to hit
Very.
that music right and capture culture and a whole entire society, and he did it.
Hmm.
You needed to capture something unbelievably just miraculous in the music in Oppenheimer because there's something
Yes.
so like every time it cuts to like you seeing like atoms and stuff like that, something needed to feel special. And
Right.
like The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett themes are two of my favorite TV show themes at this
Same.
point. And
Same.
he understood that these are westerns in space
Hmm.
and woo woo woo, and I'm just like, oh no, no, watch it. And it's just like it's so perfect, and that Oppenheimer score is incredible.
Yes.
Um,
It's.
there was some very interesting scores that came out last year.
Hmm.
Because I know like the Poor Things score was like otherworldly, just
Yeah.
strange,
Yeah, it
and
was.
like the Oppenheimer score was just something incredible. That movie,
Hmm.
just top to bottom, is just technical masterpiece, and it's just like
Yes.
Sir Christopher Nolan, as he was knighted, um,
Yes.
very recently as we're recording
Yes.
this, but it was something incredible.
Hmm.
Now, Chantal, my last question for you was
Yeah.
what I like to call the what really grinds my gears question.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you wish movies would stop doing?
Yeah. This one always bothered me. Like this one main thing, even though I know they don't do it so much, which is good. I'm glad that they don't, but I'm glad that they're getting a little bit better at it. But what I feel like movies should stop doing is showing graphic like sexual assault scenes. Like, especially if the film doesn't call for it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely that kind of person, like, hey, like, why did you throw this in here? Like, was it necessary to the story? Okay, if it wasn't, why do we have it? When like for movies like to me that doesn't call for it, it's like The Hills Have Eyes. Like I was like really thrown for a loop because I was trying to remember if it was the first one or the second one, but I do remember it was the first one.
Mm,
It was just weird because it was like, why would you throw this in a horror movie? And the same thing with Rob Zombie's like Halloween director's cut. I'm happy it wasn't the director's cut, but still, why was it in there? Because it wasn't called for it. And like the same thing with the girl with the dragon tattoo. I cringe every time I see that scene. So it's like whenever I watch it or something, I'm always skipping over it because I'm like, I understand like this is what happens to Elizabeth. I get that, but it's like, did we need
it's
it?
so graphic.
It's like, but did we need it? And so that's why I think I love the fact with Blink Twice, with the recent movie that just came out, where they
Mm,
like give us a warning at the beginning, like, hey, just to let you know, this is what's gonna happen in this movie. So like don't so you don't freak out. It's like just either A, give us a warning, or B, just stop doing it.
yeah. And that like I love Girl with Dragon Tattoo, but like my God, that
Mm-hmm.
is horrifying.
Yes.
And then you get the comeuppance sequence as well, which wild.
Yes.
I remember seeing because like at that point, movie when did that movie come out? I think I was still in high school.
It was
Um
2011, I want to
okay,
say.
so I was like
Yeah.
very early in college. That
Yeah,
probably
same.
yeah, and I I at that point had not watched a whole lot of films with a lot of
Hmm.
like really graphic things like that, and I was sitting
Right.
in the theater just being like,
Yep.
"What? What's going on here?"
Yeah,
And
it was
it's
just crazy.
uncomfortable. So
And
I
yeah.
I think horror, especially,
Hmm.
people need to learn the lesson that less is more, and
Yeah.
that there's subtlety and craft that you can bring to a horror film that makes it 10 times scarier.
Right.
And that, like, Rob Zombie has zero subtlety.
None.
Zero.
None whatsoever. I was just so thrown like when that whole scene happened because I was just like, oh,
It's crazy because
I,
I love
I was
his
like, what was
music.
that?
Like, I'm a big fan of
Right.
Rob Zombie's music. I
Hmm.
am not a fan of him as a director.
Yeah,
And
he's not all that great.
I dragged my feet to watch his two Halloween films because
Hmm.
I just didn't want to. And then I was doing a
Yeah.
video with Foster back in October
Okay.
for ranking all the Halloween films. I'm like, well, I guess I have to finally watch them. And then I was not amused.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
was.
you learned all of 100% of the wrong lessons from what
Right.
makes Halloween
Right.
a classic film. But anyway,
Right.
whatever, Rob Zombie. You got your own money. You can keep making movies if you want to, like the Munsters.
Yes.
Wild. That was so weird. But Chantal, how I always like to wrap up this show is have my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to
Yeah.
ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
All right. I would have this ask. This was the one I was actually thinking about while we were sitting here was what movie is it that you love but gets so much hate?
So, like, I'm trying to think
Hmm.
of some legitimately good examples.
Hmm.
And one of them, I just remember this getting such lukewarm response, which is wild that this is getting a
Uh-huh.
sequel next year, is The Accountant. Because,
Really?
like, low key love that.
I'm not even
And
gonna lie, I did too.
just like, I'm like, so many people were just like way too harsh on this movie. And because, like, I
Right.
think it legitimately captures like autism
Hmm.
in an interesting and actually realistic way. And then I
Right.
love John Bernthal. Like, I cannot wait for the
Same.
sequel to see two brothers team up. And
Right.
like that movie, I'm like, this legitimately a really good thriller. And then people are like, it was fine, or like it got like it was in like the 50% on Rotten Tomatoes or
Hmm.
something like that. I'm just like, you're all wrong.
Right.
You're all wrong.
Because I loved it. Me and my mom loved it. Like we came out of the theater and was just like, oh, I was just like hoping there was gonna be another one. And I am. I'm like, I'm happy for it. Like I thought Ben Affleck was amazing as the accountant. Like I
Yes.
just like he's good in like that kind of a role. I don't know what it was. It was just I think it was just like the straightforwardness of it. And then it was like and then it was like I don't think he really had that much like speaking words, I think. I don't think so he was just like very good in like how he carried himself. And then of course, like John Bernthal, like I ever since The Walking Dead, like love the guy. So it's just great. It was just great to see him in that movie. And then like to see those two interact too as well. It was just like great. So I was just like, yes, like let's get those two in another movie. I'm like, I'm
And
ready
we're
for some bang
getting The
bang shoot 'em
Accountant
up.
2 in 2025, which is wild
I'm
because
excited.
it's been how many years since
I
that
want to say
movie?
10. Has it been 10?
Like, it's probably around there, and it's just like, and they're finally
Almost.
making a sequel to this. It's probably like,
2016.
yeah, 8 years, and
Yeah.
wildest thing. But like that's one that I really do love.
Mhm.
And not enough people give it the credit that it's due. And then it's a really
Same.
good cast too, because like John Lithgow
Yeah.
was great in that too. And I don't know why I'm blanking. I feel like who was the who was the investigator chasing after him? Was it
Um, I want to say it was J.K. Simmons.
it was J.K. Simmons. And it's just like that movie just has great character actors in it. I love movies
Hmm.
with some great character actors in it. And
It
J.K.
was
Simmons
good.
is peak character actor. But
He was
well,
perfect.
yes. Now, Chantal, this was a pleasure as always. Thank you
Of
so much for
course,
coming on
always.
and chatting some
Thank you
movies
for
with
having
me.
me. Of
And
course, it's.
okay,
Oh no, I was just saying. Of course, it's always a pleasure. I always have a good time.
absolutely. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.